Welcome to another live stream. This live stream is one that was requested by one of my viewers from last time, and it was also one requested on Facebook. And in this one, I am going to be talking about how you can publish your own books, whether they be paperbacks or ebooks. And I'm going to go a bit in depth about the history of the SJS Direct imprint. I'm going to wait for everybody to come in. I'm going to let everybody know that the stream is going on now. Okay, what's up, EDEC? Getting ready to let everybody know the stream is getting ready to happen. Okay, what's up, Skylar from Scotland? Glad to have you on the live stream. All right, I'll let everybody know on Twitter and Facebook that the live stream is going on. And again, this one is going to be one where was requested by one of my viewers. And in this one, I'm going to talk about how you can publish your own books and ebooks. What's up, Brother Cap? Glad to see you in the live stream. Now, I have been publishing paperbacks and ebooks as far back as 2002. And I originally started doing my paperbacks and ebooks with a print-on-demand publisher called virtualbookworm.com. And they were the publisher that I worked with when I published the first ISIS and the one I used to publish the Cassandra Cookbook. And they were a good company. They gave me good royalties, and they did give me excellent service on both of my books. However, in 2009, I was getting ready to do another one of my books. So I'm going to try to get it out of the box. I hope it's in here. Here it is, right in front of me. This was Cassandra Cookbook. This was the book I did with Virtual Bookworm back in 2008. But in 2009, I had another book I wanted to publish, and that book was All About Maryland. Now, this All About Maryland book was a screenplay book, and as a screenplay book, it had very different and unique formatting. As you can see, the screenplay is very different than a novel, which is the interior looks like this. And because of the specialized formatting, I had to go and I want to make sure that the formatting was solid. So because this formatting was specialized, that's when I started exploring publishing my own books. Now, back in 2008, when I was working at City College, I didn't think it would be possible for me to publish my own books, but I eventually started doing research. And then after I lost my job at City College, I really started doing research into it. And as I did research into it, I started to find out how easy it was to format my own books. And that's when I went over to Lightning Source. Now, when I went to Lightning Source, that's when I learned about ways to cut down my costs, and I learned how to format my books to publish them online. And that's why I cut my cost from when I paid $8 a copy for this Cassandra cookbook back in 2008 to I think I paid about $4 for All About Maryland, and I cut my costs in half. And when I did that, what happened was I gained a lot of confidence because, one, I gained complete control over my product, and then two, I gained control over my process. Now, if you want to start out in publishing, you have 2 or 3 options. These days, you can do paperbacks on a platform like Lightning Source, which is what I originally used, or you can use Ingram Spark, which is a subsidiary of Lightning Source. And both of those will enable you to create a print-on-demand book like All About Maryland for a low cost. Now, back in 2009, when I started the SJS Direct imprint on Lightning Source, this whole book came together for the low cost of about $300, all around. And that was the cost of everything from the ISBN to the uploading fee to Lightning Source to uploading. That includes the interior and the cover. And there were a few little labor costs with that because you need certain software in order to put your book together. And I'm going to go over those right now. Now, the 3 softwares you're going to need are, you're going to need Adobe Acrobat to create your PDFs, and you're going to need Adobe Photoshop Elements. Now, some people, they will use Adobe Photoshop, but that software suite is very expensive. But you can work around that like I have with Photoshop Elements for $99. Edward Gaines is asking me what an ISBN is. An ISBN is an International Standards Book Number, and the ISBN is the number that you need in order to be able to sell your books on retail platforms like Barnes & Noble and Amazon.com. So in order to sell a paperback book or a hardcover book on Barnes & Noble or Amazon.com or any other online bookseller, you have to have an ISBN. Now, an individual ISBN will cost you $179. That was back in 2009. And a block of 10, I believe, is going to cost you a couple of $100. Now, the best bet for you, if you're going to do one book, like when I was doing All About Maryland, was to go out here and get a ISBN just for that book. And then after that, you just can buy a block later on. Now, after you get your ISBN, you also have to pay for a barcode as well. So that's why you just definitely need the Adobe Photoshop Elements software, because that's what you're going to have to use to put your barcode on the back of your book. And it's also what you're going to need to go out here and put together your cover, because that's a key piece of software you're going to need. Now, Photoshop Elements is only $99, and it's a software that I've installed on 3 computers. Usually you get 2 licenses, so you can put it on 2 different computers, but I have had it on 3 because I wound up, my original laptop died, and then I bought a new shell for the Dell Latitude I was using for over 10 years. And now I put that in a new shell. So it's now on technically 3 computers, but you get a license to use it on 2 different computers. And I put mine, again, on 2 different computers. I put it on, I believe, that one and the MacBook Pro that I used to use for all my publishing. So that's the software you're going to need. The other software you're going to need for your publishing is Microsoft Word. And the Microsoft Word software, this is what you're going to use to format your manuscript and then format your page layout. Usually I do all of my page layouts on Microsoft Word, and then I take it over to Adobe Acrobat and turn it into a PDF. Now, when I'm doing Adobe Acrobat, usually I break the book into 3 sections. And those 3 sections start with what they call, in publishing, we call this the front matter. And the front matter is the first 8 pages of the book. That includes the title, which is on the first page. And then you have the second page, which is the author's name on the page. You can also have something on here talking about books you previously wrote, like I did. And then you have your page with the legal stuff on it, which lists the ISBN, which lists the things like the publisher's address and things like like in the case of Maryland, because it's a screenplay, I have the WGA registration number and the Library of Congress copyright number. In addition to that, on the page with the legal stuff on it, you're going to have the page like the credits for your artists. Like when I hire guys like Bill Walko or Mike Williams, their credit will be right here in the page with the legal stuff on it. And then after that, you're going to have your dedication page. And then you have your another blank and the acknowledgments. And then you can go into your content, which is what I do almost immediately with the screenplay basics. And from there, that's where you start the book, because all books start on the left page or the 9th page of a paperback. And that's how you lay out your front matter. And from there, you have your story block. And then you go into, after you finish your story block, you then go into your back matter. Now, your back matter, it starts here with the finish of the book, where the story finishes. And then, like when I did here, the ads for other books. And this is how you lay out your book. So your book consists of 4 elements. It consists of your cover, your front matter, your content, and then your back matter. So I usually break that up into 3 files, because that way I can just organize it for the Microsoft Word part of the book. And then I do the cover as a separate part of your book. G. Woodward asks, don't forget how to mention how you copyright your work. There are 2 ways you can copyright your work. One is by immediately writing copyright on your work right there as you're writing it, because copyright is something that you get when it's affixed in a tangible form. So if I have a tangible form like this book, this is copyright. But to reinforce your copyright, you can register your copyright with the United States Copyright Office. And I've done that for several of my books. All About Maryland is registered with the United States Copyright Office. Cassandra Cookbook is registered with the Copyright Office. And Temptation of John Haynes and All About Nikki and many of my other books are registered with the Copyright Office. So that's an extra layer of protection, especially if you're doing things like a screenplay book. You definitely want to register your copyright with the United States Copyright Office, because with screenplays, they won't even look at them unless you have some sort of registration. I have WGA, Writers Guild registration on All About Maryland, and I also have U.S. copyright registration on it as well. So you should copyright is something you have when you do the work in a fixed, tangible form. But if you want an extra layer of protection, you can go out here and get yourself a federal copyright. Now, when I was doing my books, copyright only cost about $35 for unpublished scripts. And for a published work, I think it was about $45. So you would send, if you publish a book, you would send them 2 copies of your work. And then that would, with a piece of paper, because I did that for Temptation of John Haynes, and that would ensure that your work is registered with the United States Copyright Office and your book was registered with the Library of Congress. So that's how you get a copyright for your work. But usually you do that at the end of the publishing process. Now, when you're starting your book, you have a manuscript and you want to turn the manuscript into a laid out page. So what you want to do when you have Microsoft Word is you're going to change your manuscript into what I call a book text. And this is what I do for many of my ISIS series books. I take the raw manuscript and I turn it into the pages for what you see here. This is what the book would look like. So you get to this by laying out your page. And I usually do that by going into Microsoft Word, and then I format the page to a 6:9 size by going into something like Microsoft Word. I would go into format, and then I would go into document, and I would change the size of the page. And after I would change the size of the page, I would then go into that whole page dialog box and then start formatting the margins and stuff, because your margins on an 8.5 and 11 is not going to work for a 6:9. So for a 6:9, I usually change it to 0.8 on the left, the right, and the top and the bottom. And then that's how I get the page laid out for the book. And from there, then I go into the chapters. And for each chapter, I usually make sure that I don't have any indentation on, like, the chapter ones here, make sure that there's no indentations. And I also make sure that I have some white space. So this is something that's very important for books. And it's one of the reasons why I left Virtual Bookworm, even though they were a great company. Was one of the issues I had with them was that a lot of the pages, they were really crammed together. If you look at this, it's really crammed together and the fonts are really small, and it's hard for a reader to really read this. So I wanted to, another thing when I did with the SJS Direct Imprint, I wanted to give people a better reading experience. I wanted to give them a more enjoyable reading experience, because a book this tight is very hard to read. So what I wanted to do for my books, because I know a lot of people, they had issues with reading, a lot of dyslexics, a lot of people with reading disabilities, and a lot of people who were struggling readers. I wanted to give them a better reading experience in SJS Direct Books. So I would format my books with a what I call a 12-point font, and I would also give them white space in the book, so that if you're having issues with reading, you could put a finger under the word, and that would help you be able to see the words, clearly. A lot of people, they struggle with reading. So I wanted to give my readers a reading experience, especially with books like your Samurai Goddess here. This is for kids and all ages. And I knew that if I had younger readers, what I wanted them to be able to do was be able to sound out words or to be able to put their fingers under words. And that would help them in learning how to be a better reader and get some more confidence as they're reading. Thank you, Red Star 7311, for the donation. I really appreciate it. In this, I'm talking about how to publish your own books. And again, the page layouts, that is all something you can do. But again, I usually do that for my readers because I want them so that they can understand the book very easily and they could go right into reading. And that's all part of the page layouts, which again includes your front matter, your content, and then your back matter. And all of those you format in Microsoft Word for your paperback, and then you convert that to a PDF. Now, you can with Adobe Acrobat software, after you've converted it to a PDF, you take the 3 files for your PDF and you can put them together by in doing the insert pages technique. Usually that's what I do. I start with the front matter, which again consists of the opening, the title page, the blank page, and then another title page with the author's name, another page, and and the page with the credits and everything. I do all that on the front matter, and then I merge that file with the book block content, and then I take that book and put it with the back matter. And usually the back matter again is just when I do an ISIS series books, it's all the list of all the ISIS series books, so that every reader knows about all the books they can read in chronological order to see the entire ISIS series and the SJS Direct universe. So that's what I would put in an ISIS or eSteam series book. And in other books like the Thetas, I would have a similar back matter where I say other titles by Sean James. And again, that's all about letting the reader know that the book is over and that they can go out here and find other titles I have written. So that's how you lay out a paperback with Microsoft Word. And I've been using Microsoft Word for the last 10 years that I've been publishing on the SJS Direct imprint. And it is it's a software that you can easily use to publish any book that you want and lay out any page layout that you want. That's all you really need to write your manuscript, and that's all you need to do to lay out your pages. Now, in Microsoft Office Mac 2008, they even have a format there for you called POD large paperback right there in the page setup. So it's right there for you, and that's all you need to lay out your paperback. Now, for your cover, you're going to need, again, your Adobe Photoshop elements. And your Adobe Photoshop elements, once you get a template from either a Lightning Source or CreateSpace, this is all the software you're going to need. And you use that to place your art and then place your front cover and your back cover, because your cover comes in three elements. Because usually this cover that you see here, there are 3 elements to a cover. The first element is the front cover, the second part is the spine, and then the third part is the back cover. Now on Lightning Source, when you have a back cover, they don't have barcodes. So on Lightning Source, you would take the barcode PNG that you would get when you bought your ISBN, and you would place that here. And that's what I did with All About Maryland back in 2009. I had to place the barcode, and then after I placed the barcode, I would have to do the designs for the spine, for the front cover, and for the back cover. So I designed everything on this cover, and everything that it was put on this cover was designed by me back in 2009. You have to be, even though you get the template with the dotted lines, you have to be careful, or else you might run into some problems with it. And like I did when I first did it, because sometimes you wind up with issues where the fonts aren't embedded, or you wind up with issues where the cover is a little off. G. Woodward asks, do you think more writers will go the indie route? Most writers today are going the indie route because it's just impossible to get through to editors in trade publishing. Now, back before I decided to publish Cassandra Cookbook in 2008, I had been submitting this book to publishers for 2 or 3 years. And even though I got agents to read the first 50 pages or even the whole manuscript, most of them didn't want to pick up the book. And what I found from my best-selling author friend was a lot of them didn't want to pick up the book because they didn't really like the narrative of the book, and they didn't like the whole idea of a gay man being presented as a villain. Now, what a lot of people don't know about the publishing industry is that the publishing industry is primarily controlled by women. And a lot of these feminists, they have a certain particular narrative they want pushed in their books. So unless your books fit a certain type of story that they want or they're comfortable with, they aren't going to pick up your book. So they're looking for primarily stories that fit a certain narrative or tell a story. And that's why a lot of indie writers go their own way in the publishing world. And that was one of the reasons why I went my own way, because I wanted to publish All About Marilyn, a screenplay book. This was something that usually is not done by your traditional publishers. And this is something that most publishers won't touch because a lot of them are afraid of all the rights issues as related to a screenplay. But I decided I wanted to go out here and publish a screenplay because I wanted people to learn about the techniques of screenwriting, and I wanted to share Marilyn's story with everyone. And I wanted to go out here and take that risk back in 2009. Now, with other books, the reason why I published them myself is because I know that there are markets that most publishers just aren't going to touch. Like, for example, with the ISIS series, the reason why I publish ISIS series books is because when it comes down to African-American fantasy, that a lot of publishers, like your Tor books and your Forge books, they don't really want to publish these type of books, because when I would try to submit books to them, like Temptation of John Haynes, they would tell me that this isn't the story that's right for them. So you have to go out here to another marketplace to reach them. So that's one of the reasons why I do independent publishing, is because that you have to go out here and create the market for yourself. So that's one of the reasons why I publish ISIS series books myself, is because I want to reach the readers, and I want to bring those stories to readers. Now, another marketplace that I saw an audience for was the African-American goth subculture. And that's one of the reasons why I publish Spinsterella, because when it comes down to the publishing world, they don't really want to see other people in the goth subculture. They're not really a big fan of them, and they're especially not a fan of Black goths. So what I did was say, I'm going to publish it myself, because it was part of my mission of creating positive stories of the African-American experience. And it was also part of the mission I had for diversifying the African-American book market. Because when it comes down to the African-American book market, I saw that you could have all these books talking about street lit, swirling, strong, independent Black women who are looking for a good man, but we weren't getting the stories that showed us a richer and broader picture of African-American culture and African-American life. So that's one of the reasons why I took Spinsterella to the marketplace and published it myself. Same thing with the Thetas, where I was talking about Black sororities. And I often do, in books like Temptation of John Haynes, I do these because the most trade publishers, they just won't go in that direction. Red Star asks, if you don't want to use your name on your book because it's racy, you can use a pseudonym. That's what my friend Lawrence Cherry did for commencement. Now, Lawrence Cherry, he has a very good job, and he doesn't want to lose his job. So he did this Christian fiction book, and he asked me to publish it for him. So I decided, okay, he wants me to just do this book for him, throw it together real quick. And I did that book for him on a commission project. And that you can do that. You can just make it a pseudonym, but if you do a registered copyright, you can put your name on it, and you're the only person who will know that the book is in your name. Now, when you're doing publishing, when you go on a publishing platform, all the royalties are going to go to you. They're going to be in your name, because as you're setting up your publishing platform, you have to have something else in addition to having the computer software, Microsoft Word, Adobe Acrobat, and Adobe Photoshop Elements, you also need to have a bank account. Now, when you're self-publishing and doing indie books, a bank account is essential for doing independent publishing, because that's how you get your royalties directly deposited to you. So you have to have a checking account. Now, one e-publisher you don't need a checking account for is Smashwords. For them, you just need PayPal, but for everybody else, Lightning Source, KDP Publishers, which is Amazon, and the iBook Store and Barnes & Noble, you will definitely need a bank account, and you will need to have your bank account where you have your routing number that you can send, so they can send you your royalties. And you definitely going to need that. You're definitely going to need a bank account to go out here. And if you're going out here to sell books and sell them to readers. So no, it's Smashwords, Edward Gaines. It's Smashwords. So they are the biggest ebook publisher. And Smashwords is a platform that I used primarily to reach the largest audience possible. So I'm going to go into ebooks in a minute, but I really want to make sure that I get paperbacks, you know, on the table, because paperbacks, this is what a lot of people want to make. This is what a lot of people want to create when they go out here and publish a book. So you have to know all the elements before you publish a book, and you have to know how it's laid out, because most companies, like your KDP publishers or your Lightning Source, they're very finicky, and they want to make sure all the elements of the book meet the standard, because the industry standard, again, is you're going to have a cover, and then you're going to have the spine, which has the title at the top, the author's name, and then you're going to have your back cover with the back cover blurb, which is a synopsis of the story. You can have the option of putting a picture on here, or you can put whatever you want. You can even put back images on here. And then you can have your publisher imprint, which is SJS Direct, which I have, and the barcode. And those are your, again, your elements of the cover. And then you go into your front matter, your content, and which is the first chapter. And then you go into your back matter. All this goes into one whole paperback book. Red Star is asking me, is Comixology the future of comics, or comics or graphic novels a dead market? Well, as I see it, Comixology is a part of the future of comics, and I don't think that comic books are a dead market. I think what's really the big problem with comics is a content issue, because if you have the right content, then people will want to buy it. I believe that comics can come back, but the big problem with comics is we have a lot of publishers who want to publish what they want, sort of like independent publishers, and they don't want to listen to the customer. They don't want to listen to the customer, and they don't want to give the customer what they want. And that's one of the reasons why comics are struggling right now. When it comes down to comics these days, we're not getting a lot of all ages or family content. And that's really sad, because we are in the middle of a major boom of kids coming up with superheroes, and they're seeing all these superhero movies. They're excited for superheroes, but most of these companies like Marvel and DC wants to insist on giving you the New 52 and the New 52 type characters, which are dark and dreary. And Marvel wants to give you identity politics and not give you a hero. Now, I myself, who have been working in trade publishing, they say that there's been an uptick in sales of paperback books. And the reason why there's an uptick in sales of paperbacks after years of being down is because authors like myself are trying to give customers what they want. I mean, people want books like Spinsterella. They want books like the ISIS series. They want books like The Temptation of John Haynes. They want books like The Man Crisis. And they want books that will allow them to escape. And publishers just aren't giving readers that escape. They want to give them a problem. They want to give them identity politics. And that's not what the reader comes in to when they buy a book. When they go to buy a book, they want to go escape, to go from their problems and their life. They want to hang out with a character who is a friend, and they want to spend time with someone that they like. So that's what a writer like myself tries to do when I go out here and write a story like a Spinsterella or an ISIS series book or a Temptation of John Haynes. I want to give you a character who you like, who you want to spend time with, because a book like this, again, 250, 300 pages, this book takes a lot of time to read. So people want to spend time with a book, and in order to get them to finish and then pick up two other books, like in the Spinsterella trilogy, Spellbound and Legendary Mad Matilda, I have to give the customer an enjoyable reading experience. And you're not getting that with comics. Now, when it comes down to comics, that's one of the reasons why I'm doing the ISIS graphic novel Indiegogo, is I want to give readers that all ages fun comic that will allow them to escape. And I talked about that yesterday in yesterday's live stream, and I'm trying to raise funds to do that comic. And that's an extension of what I did with all the self-publishing I'm doing right now. So all the things that I learned about publishing, I want to take it to another level and go out here and publish my own comic. And I'm going to leave a link to that Indiegogo because I really would love to see this comic get published, but I can only do that with your support. So this is something that I would love to do, and this is something I would love to share with everyone. And comic publishing is a lot more expensive than paperback publishing. Again, publishing a book like Temptation of John Haynes, this book only cost me about $260 to publish back in 2009. Same thing with All About Marilyn. These books only cost me $260 to put together, but I was able to cut a lot of my costs because, again, I was doing most of the design work. I designed both of these covers, and I designed the interiors. I designed everything on Microsoft Word software. However, a book like a Samurai Goddess, this is going to cost a little more, even though I used the Create Space platform, which was free, because I had to contract out art for the cover. Now, you can minimize your costs for contract work, but I wanted to make a powerful impression on people with ISIS covers. So that's why I would hire guys like Bill Walker and Mike Williams to design my covers. But you can go out here and find ways to get your covers a little cheaper by doing things like stock photos. But usually one of the reasons why I kind of frown on stock photos is because stock photos, a lot of other people will be using the exact same image. And if people are using the exact same image, then it doesn't make your book unique, it doesn't make it distinct, and it doesn't make it stand out. Now, for Spellbound, I did use you can't really see it, a stock photo of a black rose. And this photo only cost me like $5, but I felt it fit what I wanted to say in the story about Black Rose, which represented the goth subculture. And then the way it was spinning represented like a spiral. So that's what I did for this one, but I'm not a big fan of using things like stock photos. For my readers, I want to give them something special, something unique, and something that makes the book stand out in a crowd. That's why I would go out here and hire a guy like Mike Williams to design a cover for Legendary Mad Matilda. Is I would want the book to look special, and I would want to put a great piece of art on it. So that's one of the first things people see. And I wanted to have that strong first impression on people. So that's why I would go out here and commission comic artists like Mike Williams and Bill Walko to design covers, because this cover is a lot stronger than something like what I had to do for ISIS House of ISIS because I just didn't have the budget at the time to pay an artist. This All That Glitters is a lot stronger visually than House of ISIS. So I would rather give you this as for your money than give you something like this. I only do these because I felt forced to. And when I first started out, I was only doing hand drawings because I just didn't have the money to do it. So when it comes down to a book, you really want to have a really strong cover like this one. You really don't want to have a generic one. But a lot of times people have to use generic ones because they want to get the book to the marketplace and they just don't have the money. So when I first started out, I was doing hand drawings, but eventually I started working towards working with different comic artists, and they were open to me doing covers. One of my first artists I contacted, he didn't even know what I was talking about, but other comic artists, they were open because they were getting a publishing credit and they were going out here and their work was getting seen. Plus it was being seen in a medium that is considered one of the high ranking ones. So if your book has a cover with art on it in a bookstore, you're going to reach a lot more people than you would just in a comic shop. So some artists are like, that's a major honor for them. And that's the thing that they would really want, because it's a major thing, especially if you're paying them full standard rate. And I usually would pay full standard rate. A MGTOW comic book, I would love to do that, but they already have a character who does that. His name is Jughead. But these days they've messed up Jughead. But the old school Jugheads, he was the original MGTOW character. But maybe I could come up with something soon. But my plate is very full. So I'm going to get back to this whole publishing thing. But that's what you would need for a paperback. So paperbacks, they require just a few pieces of software to put together, and they also they'd only require you to do a little uploading. So it's not that much. It doesn't cost that much to do your initial setup. Once you get your laptop, you get your Microsoft Word, you get your Adobe Acrobat, you get with your Adobe Photoshop elements, and you have all the tools to make as many books as you want. And that's what I use to write over 60 books and publish 60 books, was just those 3 pieces of software. Now, eBooks are very different. Now, eBooks, if you want to just do eBooks, you can just have Microsoft Word and Adobe Photoshop elements, and that's all you really need to do eBooks. Now, eBooks, their formatting is a little different. Usually when I'm doing eBooks, I try to follow the Smashwords guidelines, and the Smashwords guidelines, they are a little finicky. Smashwords guidelines, they really want Times New Roman font. They want 12-point font. They want everything single spaced. But for Kindle books, I do things a little differently, because Kindle, the standards for Kindle and Nook are different. So Kindle, I usually just take the manuscript and that I formatted, and I just put that with an ebook cover, and then I upload that to Kindle Direct Publishing, and that's good, with a little bit of digital back matter in the back. Now, that's all you would need for Kindle, but for and Barnes & Noble's Nook. But for Smashwords, it's a very, very different formatting process. And that formatting process, again, you have to have the 12-point font in Times New Roman. You have to have everything single spaced. You have to have everything laid out just exactly, or the book won't get approved for worldwide distribution. Right now, I had Man Crisis on Smashwords, and I have to try to fix the formatting on Man Crisis right now, because I planned expanded distribution to Nook and Smashwords. It's on Nook right now. I mean, you can get Man Crisis on Nook right now, but right now I'm trying to work on the formatting for Smashwords. But for Kindle, you can just take the book, put a different front cover on it. And once you put the different front cover on, not front cover, front page on it, because all you need is a front page. You don't need 8 pages of front matter and back matter for a Kindle book. All you need is a single page that has the title of the book, the copyright of the book, the author's name. And for a Kindle book or any ebook, you don't need to spend extra money on an ISBN because it's a digital piece of content. You don't need an ISBN. And because it's being downloaded, all you have to do is just upload it and then put it and follow the instructions on the KDP website, and you'll be able to publish your book. And the KDP format, it does Kindle format, there's not that much you need to do. All you need, again, is your book block, a cover page, and some back matter if you want to have it. And that's your book, ebook. And you upload that to Amazon along with a cover, and there you can put that book on sale for 99 cents all the way up to $999. And your book is going to be on Kindle. And that's where a lot of the sales usually come from. It for a lot of indie writers is ebooks. So that's the place for an indie writer to really start laying out their platform. Because when I started publishing, I had started out in 2009. I was starting with just paperbacks. And then my best-selling author friend, she told me all about ebooks, and she commissioned me to do her ebooks for her. And I did her ebooks for her. I got them on Smashwords. I got them on Kindle. And she was selling thousands of copies just right off the gate. And that's when I decided, instead of me going to the 2011 Harlem Book Fair, I was going to focus on ebooks. Now, I knew that I wasn't that popular of an author. I was a new guy coming out. So what I did was I started giving out ebooks for free. And I did that so I could build up my reputation. So usually with the ebooks, I used to hand them out for free so people would get to know my writing style. And I did that all on the Smashwords platform. Now, the Smashwords platform will allow you to give away a free ebook. And that's a great way of getting people to get to know your work and get to know you as a storyteller. And from there, on Smashwords, I had several books become hits. I had All About Nikki, The Fabulous First Season, become a hit. I had the E-Steam series start to become a hit. And that's where I started to build some momentum. And then over time, as I started to build my momentum, especially with books like the original Stop Simping and Misadventures of Captain Save-A-Ho, I really didn't need to go out here and continue to give out books for free. Now, I gave out books for free on those Smashwords platform from about 2011 to about 2017. And after about 2015, I stopped putting novels on Smashwords for free. And these days, I don't even put any books up there for free anymore, except for the ones that are already up there previously. That, like, I have some E-Steam series books for free up there, and I use those as loss leaders to get people into buying other books. And that's another trick you can use for ebooks, is using one ebook as a loss leader, like the start of a series or a mid book that's in the middle of a series, and you can use that as your loss leader, and that'll get people to come back and buy other books. Like, for example, back in the day when I had Stop Simping up for free, I would use that as a gateway book, and then people would come back and buy the other books, especially if they saw them in the back matter. Like, I remember when I originally did Manginas, that book got over 1,000 downloads, and what happened was people liked that book so much they went back for Stop Simping, and then they came back for Misadventures of Captain Save-A-Ho. So when they looked at the back and saw those books, that's what made them come back for more. So that's where you've heard me talk about this in other videos, where I talk about how people buy books based on what they're holding in their hand. That's what I saw with the ebooks. Usually the book that I would put out, people would download that almost immediately, and then they would go to the back books, or they would anticipate the next book. And I saw that also with the eSteam series books that I used to offer for free on Smashwords. Now you can get a couple of those eSteam series books for free on Smashwords right now. You can get Little Girl Lost for free in digital. You can get Fairy Tale. You can get a whole bunch of them for free on Smashwords. So you can get a good chunk of the eSteam series for free on Smashwords, and you can get one of the ISIS series books, Power of the Princess, for free on Smashwords. Edward Gaines says it's like buying the back issues of a comic book, and that's exactly what I was trying to build the model for. Because when you have 2 or 3 books that are connected, like the ISIS series, you want people to be able to enjoy the book that's in their hand, and then you'll be able to go back out here and then start searching for back books like your Samurai Goddess or your Amari's Revenge. Because when you have a really solid story, people are going to come back for the back issues. And the book, if the book is good that they're holding in their hand, they're going to come back for the other books. Now, I've also used the loss leader strategy on books like on Kindle Unlimited with Legendary Mad Matilda, which is now on Kindle Unlimited. If you have Kindle Unlimited, you can read this book for free. And people like this book so much that they come back for Spellbound, and they come back for Spinsterella. So it's a great sales strategy for you to use, is to get people in by letting them have one book for free. And because they like the story so much, they will go out here and spend their money on other books. And that's what any indie publisher has to do, because you really don't have a lot of resources to go out here and market and advertise like the big corporations. The big corporations, they can go out here and put an ad in a magazine. They can put an ad on a TV channel. But the smaller budgeted publishers, independent publishers, you have to really make sure that what's on the page is strong. Red Star 7311 says, the man who rules the world made him by A Conversation with Death. Have you picked up The Temptation of John Haynes? Because this is the book that starts everything. So if you read Man Who Rules the World and Conversation with Death, you definitely have to get Temptation of John Haynes. So this is the book that starts the SJS Direct universe, and it lays out everything from Man Who Rules the World and Conversation with Death. So again, when you have a good story, that's what's going to get people buying other books. So that's something you really want to have, is if you have to be a very solid writer. And with each book you publish, it's going to sell the next book you publish. And that's how you build your reputation as a writer. Whether it be paperbacks or eBooks, it's about what's on the page. And I've talked about this in other live streams. I talked about, like for the SJW comics, what's on the page is what's going to sell the reader. And you need what's on the page to be very strong, because that's how you get the reader to buy the older books, the newer books, and to build the word of mouth you're going to need in order to get other people to try your work. Because readers who like your work, what they're going to do is tell other people, and that's how you build your audience. And I was able to build a large international audience on Smashwords, because when I started putting books on Smashwords, I started to see the impact of going out here and reaching customers, because I started getting sales in the UK, I started getting sales in Germany, started getting sales in France, in Mexico, in Belgium, even in Japan. And all of those sales, that's what got me to start going out here and really continuing to build the platform. So what I went for Red Star 7311 was with Man Who Rules the World. I wanted it to look like a Time magazine cover. That was the original plan when I designed the cover, because back then I did another Kickstarter and it failed. and I was going to hire Bill Walko to design a cover for The Man Who Rules the World. Unfortunately, I didn't have the money, so what happened was I had to go into Photoshop and make my own cover with a picture that I made of a custom John Haynes figure. I have a custom John Haynes figure, so I wound up making the cover. It was supposed to be based on a Time magazine cover, so I wound up having to do that with that, and that's how I came up with the idea for The Man Who Rules the World cover. It originally was supposed to look like a Time magazine cover because John Haynes was considered the man who rules the world. And the Conversation with Death cover, that was something me and Mike Williams talked about, and he did that piece for me because I was telling him I was looking to do a cover for A Conversation with Death, and the book really wasn't as I saw it. I didn't have an idea for it, so I just let Mike do his thing. And he made a masterpiece of a cover that literally made it one of the best-selling books out there. Good morning, Chris Brown. Chris Brown is the creator of the Omega Black manga, and he watches my videos on the regular. And I was talking about, getting your out the tools of self-publishing with paperbacks and ebooks. And one of the things that when I had Photoshop, I was able to take a photo that I had made a couple of years ago, and I turned it into The Man Who Rules the World cover. But these days, I would rather make covers by professional artists because it makes that powerful first impression when you have a professional cover, and it really gets people's attention almost immediately. And that's one of the things you're going to have to do when you're doing independent published books is you really want to get people's attention almost immediately, because you have to compete with a lot of different forms of media. You have to compete with Netflix. You have to and these streaming services. You have to compete with YouTube. You have to compete with Facebook. You have to compete with television. And you're doing this on a shoestring budget because most indie writers, you are just working with what you've got on hand, and you have to know how to make what you have working on hand work for you. And that's something I learned over the last 20 years is how to make things work for me and how to be resourceful. And that's how I wound up reaching different audiences, reaching different markets, and reaching different customer bases. Is I went out here and I learned on the ground just how to do different things. I learned things from different authors. An old author friend of mine, Liz Isaacs, she told me about Twitter. Another author friend I met on Facebook, what's her name, Savannah North, a long time, about 10 years ago. I met her on Facebook, and she was one of the first people to buy Temptation of John Haynes. She left a review of it. My best-selling author friend, she taught me things about publishing. She was the one who got me introduced to eBooks. And with eBooks, when I adapted to the ebook strategy, that's how I started to really build an international audience, because just trying to sell books on the street, that's not going to really net you many sales. What's really going to net you a lot of sales for an independent published book is you going out here and marketing hard. Now, when I did All About Maryland back in 2009, I didn't really know much about social media. But these days, I've learned in the last 10 years how to use social media as a tool. And because I knew how to use social media as a tool, I was able to start really reaching audiences. And the book that helped me to really reach a lot of audiences was Spellbound, that I did in 2016. Now, in 2016, I had Spinsterella, which had started to get a little bit of a following, and I wanted to follow it up with Spellbound. So Spellbound was supposed to be the story of Matilda Crowley's baby bat years in the goth subculture. And I started my marketing campaign very different than I did for previous books. I started the marketing campaign for Spellbound actually 90 days before the book was supposed to be released. And that 90-day window gave me a tremendous advantage, because I started out when I was making these YouTube videos, a lot of people, they saw the teaser ad, which said Spellbound, a darker shade of black. And that ad really got people to notice the book. So I would put these ads before the book, because I said, if Google's going to put ads in front of my videos, then I need to put an ad in front of my video if I hope to sell my books to readers so that they can know what book is available and what book is coming out. And I did that with Spellbound. And I also tied that to the Kindle pre-order process. And that's what enabled me to start to really reach customers with that book. And it led to the book having strong sales out of the gate. And I combined that with videos I did about subjects like Black people in the goth subculture, the darker shade of Black, and the spellbound Negro. All those videos gave people reasons to go out here and pick up the book. So you really want to have a marketing campaign set up. And that's one of the reasons why I do many of the ads and why I do a lot of the videos talking to people, because that's how you get the word out about your book. And that's how you get people talking about your book, is you have to go out here and market it to people. Now, these days, I'm looking for other ways to market. And that's another reason why I do radio shows like Obsidian Radio, and I'm trying to do other radio shows out here, is I want to reach other customers and get them to find my work and try my work. And that's all part of the publishing process, because in addition to publishing, you also have to have a marketing plan. Because if you want to publish a book like this, yeah, it's very nice that you put all that work into publishing, but you really want to have a good marketing plan, because for you to go out here and spend all that time and all that money putting it together into a book, you really don't want to just waste it on just putting a book together for the sake of putting a book together. One, you want to make money on the book, and two, you want to reach an increased readership. That's what you want to do when you have a book, is you really want to be able to build your audience, and you want to build your base of readers when you're publishing books. Now, when it comes down to independent publishing, I've learned not to have really grand expectations. Now, some people, they come into independent publishing and they're expecting to sell 1 million copies, and that's just not going to happen. Now, when it comes down to independent publishing, your expectations usually should be kind of on the low side. They say the average independent book that's independently published barely sells 100 copies, but I've had several that did better than that. I've had E-Steam No Good Deed have 3,000 downloads. I've had Misadventures of Captain Save-A-Ho have 300,000 downloads. And I've had Manginas go over 1,000. And Man Crisis has now broken over 100 and is headed into the 110s right about now. And I've had novels like The Thetas. This one did over 1,000 downloads with the Kindle freebies, but it also actually got a couple of hundred sales. So it is possible for your books to do well depending on the content, and it is possible for your books to sell, but you're going to have to go out here and put the work in. So that's one of the things a lot of POD authors, they come in, they think that because they publish a book that it's going to sell. Yeah, the Sandman ad really did help on the Man Crisis. And he also did ads for me with Stop Simping and the other books. And I'm thankful to Sandman. I may ask him to do another review soon. But you have to have advertising, you have to have marketing, and you also have to have a marketing plan and a focus on a base of customers. Now, before I even write a book, before I even put fingers to a keyboard, I have a plan for what customers I want to target. For example, when I did Spellbound, I wanted to reach African Americans and I wanted to reach people in the goth subculture. And a lot of goths, Black goths especially, came to me and they were promoting the book and letting people know that the book was available. And even white goths were telling people about the book, and that helped with the sales. And these days, the books of the Spinsterella trilogy, people are finding them, they are discovering them. And again, that's all due to the word of mouth and the work that goes into marketing and promoting. Now, some books are going to be easier to market than others, and some books are going to be harder to market than others. Moji says that Sandman brought him there, and he's reading Stop Simping. Thank you for reading Stop Simping. Thank you for buying Stop Simping. I really appreciate everybody who buys my books. I really thank everybody for buying all my books, because if it wasn't for you readers, I would not be here right now, and I would not be sharing with you right now, because if it wasn't for you guys donating to the Patreon, donating to the PayPal, buying the books, I wouldn't be able to go out here and do the live streams for you. And self-publishing is something that can be very rewarding, because when it comes down to self-publishing, you are in charge, you are in control, and you are the one who creates the tangible product at the end of the day, whether it be a paperback or an ebook, and you are the one who creates the overall end product, and you are the one who creates the overall business. So that is very satisfying to do, but when it comes down to it, it takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of energy, and it takes a lot of money. So you have to understand, you need to have your resources right if you hope to do this. Now, when it comes down to independent publishing, I recommend everybody have some sort of day job. Now, I've been out of work for 10 years, but I would rather do this with a day job, because when you have a day job, you actually have money to put into things, so you can afford to go out here and be able to commission things like art for covers, or you can go out here and hire editorial services. Now, when I first started out back in 2008 with Cassandra Cookbook, I used to get a lot of flack over grammatical issues like typos and misspelled words and sentence structure. But these days, I'm not having any of those problems, and that's because I would listen to my customers and I would work on things like that, like the grammatical errors, like the spelling errors and the typos. And these days, my books, they're almost on the level of a trade paperback book from a publishing house. And that's because I oftentimes spend 6 months or more just poring over a book, looking for typos, looking for sentence structure. And I do things like reading entire paragraphs aloud so that I can assure that the book reads and flows in a way that the reader can understand. And I was doing that before I did this live stream. I was doing editing on the third John Haynes book, John Haynes, The Man with Nothing to Lose. And I was sitting there reading over the paragraphs to ensure that the spelling was right, the punctuation was right, the grammar was right. And one of the things that I do is I do that in Microsoft Word, and I also do that in a PDF. So that's the second stage of proofreading. Then I usually go out here and I'll buy one of these books, have it printed, and then I will look it over one more again. So these books over a 6-month period have been read at least about 50 times by me. However, usually if you can afford to hire an editor, that will be a major benefit to you, and it would be money well spent. But when you're working on a shoestring, you have to go out here and spend the time yourself. And I've done that for over 60 books. I just sat there and I would spend the time poring over the book, because at the end of the day, the book is my product, and I want to make sure that my product meets a high standard for my readers. So that's something I want to do for my readers, is make sure that every book that comes out of the SJS Direct imprint meets the highest standard for quality. Because another thing you're going to have to deal with from people who support trade publishers and much to the general public is them saying that, oh, your book is a self-published book, So therefore, it must be bad. It must be badly written. And that's something you can overcome by making sure your book is the best quality it can be. And that's something you really want to focus on, is making sure your books are the best quality they can be. You want to make sure that they're the best it can be, because if you have high quality, that's going to increase your word of mouth, and it's going to get people focused more on the story than focused on the errors. And these days, I have people who are coming to me on Facebook. I had a lot of people who were friending me on Facebook. They were sending me messages telling me that they enjoy the Spinsterella trilogy. They love the Matilda Crowley character, and they enjoyed the story. And I had one guy who told me that he shared the story with a biracial friend of his, and he liked this Matilda character and the Matilda story. And that was something that really floored me, because I wasn't expecting to get people starting to tell me about Matilda Crowley these days. Usually when I get a lot of people, they come to me, they talk about Isis, they talk about John Haynes, and they also would talk about my simp books. But this is the first time somebody actually talked to me about the Spinsterella trilogy. And again, they're focusing on the characters and the content of the characters, because I would focus on the things like the grammar, the punctuation, the spelling, and making sure that the books are the highest quality. And that's something that you as an independent publisher have to do, because it's all in your hands. Now, the tools you can use to improve your spelling and your grammar are books like Strunk and White's Elements of Style and the Bedford English Handbook. And I read those books from cover to cover, and they helped me to become a better writer, which helped me to publish better work. Edward Gaines asked, have your books ever used Ebonics in the dialogue? I've used Ebonics in the dialogue, and it's not a problem if you're making it where a character is speaking that way, but I really don't like to use it too much. I like to use it maybe here and there. I remember in an All About Nikki book, The Fabulous First Season, I have characters, they go into Ebonics here and there. And some characters I do put into Ebonics, like for John Haynes, the man who has nothing to lose. The villain, he uses some Ebonics, but I usually make it where it fits whatever character there is. Now, when it comes down to publishing your books, again, it doesn't cost that much, and there are ways to keep your costs low for when you want to print a paperback. I originally started out with Lightning Source back in 2009. Unfortunately, I couldn't afford to keep the maintenance costs up, so this edition of All About Maryland is no longer in print on the Lightning Source. And if you have a blue cover Temptation of John Haynes, you could consider that to be a collectible, because that one is no longer in print anymore. And when I moved the books over to CreateSpace, I changed the Temptation of John Haynes' cover to a black cover. So that one, if you have a blue one, it's a collectible one. But if you have a black one, it's a regular one. This Cassandra Cookbook, I couldn't afford to keep the cost on for VBW. So that one is dead. So if you have this book, you have a rare SJS Direct book. And I took everything over to CreateSpace, which is free. And then I took it, and then as CreateSpace became KDP Publishers, that's where all of my books are right now. That's where I've been publishing since about 2011. And they do a fairly great job, because most of the books I've had are really solid. They're well put together. The paperbacks, this is a Spinsterella with the new cover. I have an old cover with a Black Widow, and that's a couple of those out there. That's another rare collectible if you are into collecting SJS Direct books. This is the original Spinsterella. So if you have this one, you have a rare collectible, because there's like maybe what 5, 6 of these in the world. And I changed the cover because after Run.exe made this great art, I wanted people to see what a black goth looked like and see that there were black people in the subculture. So that's why I changed out the original cover to this new one. And that's something that's, again, very easy to do. with print-on-demand books because it's primarily a file. And that's what I did recently with Isis All About the Goddess. I changed the cover out because it's a file. And that's all you're doing with print-on-demand books is changing out the file, and then you get to put the new book on whatever platform you want to put it on. So that's one of the advantages of publishing a paperback on a print-on-demand platform is you can go out here and change out things, and you can revise things. Now, one of the big problems with doing revisions is that it can cost money if you're on a Lightning source, but on KDP and Smashwords, you can do a revision for free. So it's not going to cost you anything on KDP, Smashwords, Nook Press, or the iBookstores. No, there's no upload cost, but on Ingram Spark and Lightning Source, it may cost you some money. So that's something that you have to consider. And if you're editing a book, you really want to make sure that the book is in top form, because each of those revisions, when I was doing them on Lightning Source, they were like $40 a piece at the time. And I think it might be a little bit more. So it may cost you a little bit more money. So that's something you really need to consider if you're going to go out here and do a book. So you have to make sure that your book is well proofread. And in some cases, if you can get beta readers to read your book, and a beta reader is someone who reads the book in your family or was one of your friends, they can help you get your book up to tip-top shape. Now, when I did Isis Imitation of Life, the original, this was the original copy, I had a family member look it over, and they caught a lot of errors, which did not wind up in this version, which is the one with the Drew Swift cover, which is the one that was sold to the public. So this one was the original one that I had originally did on CreateSpace, and it has a handful of errors. It had about 6 or 7 errors. But after my family member read it, I was able to correct all those errors and then be able to come out here and bring out this version, which has no errors whatsoever. So if you have an editor there, somebody there to look, a second set of eyes to look it over, you're going to have a top quality book to come out here to be published. And again, it doesn't cost that much to publish books, especially if you use digital platforms like CreateSpace, not CreateSpace is gone now, it's KDP Publishers, Kindle Publishers. If you use publishers like Nook Press, or they're called Barnes & Noble Press now, because it used to be called Nook Press, but now it's called Barnes & Noble Press. And if you use platforms like Smashwords, or you go out here and use the iBookstore, all of those platforms are free. And it's just about you putting out quality work, and that quality work being strong enough for you to go out here, and that's going to help you build your audience. Now, when it comes down to sales, again, don't expect too much in the beginning, because if you're a new writer, most people just don't know who you are. And because they don't know who you are, they are very skeptical about trying a new writer. Now, one of the tricks I would use is the tools that are on the Amazon platform. Now, they have this Kindle Unlimited where your book has to be exclusive to Amazon. And while you're not available on other platforms, it gives you a major advantage, because Kindle is the #1 format that people buy their ebooks from. And it's the #1 platform where people buy their ebooks. So if you have a book exclusive to Kindle Unlimited, it can be a great place to reach new readers, especially if you have your books in Kindle Unlimited and you do free promotions. Now, I used to do free promotions every weekend, And that's how I wound up getting a lot of new readers, because they would try my work and then they would go from trying the work to buying other books. But these days, I really don't get that many people picking up a lot of the free books, so I don't really offer them anymore. But I do keep books on Kindle Unlimited for an incubator period before I take them and I send them to other marketplaces, because that's where a good core base of customers is. And a lot of times when people would read a book on a Kindle platform, a lot of times you will get strong word of mouth, and then they will go out and buy either another book from your series, or they'll go out here and buy a paperback book. And that's something you really want to have. And when you're doing a book, is you really want to have those books on Kindle Unlimited. Now, I have several books right now on Kindle Unlimited, like Legendary Mad Matilda, Isis Bride of Dracula, Isis Escape from Transylvania, House of Isis, and the upcoming Isis All That Glitters. And all those books, those are now on Kindle Unlimited, and you can pre-order Isis All That Glitters on Kindle right now, and it's going to be a Kindle Unlimited book that you can borrow. And I also have Esteem the Sands of Time on there, and Esteem the Sands of Time is there, and Imitation of Life is there, and all those books are on Kindle Unlimited, and you can borrow them right now, or you can read them right now. I took care of the troll, Luciano, that entered the stream, and I ended that real quick. So they're not gonna, they've been muted, so you don't have to worry about them. But I was talking about putting your selling your books and using Kindle Unlimited. And Kindle Unlimited is a great tool, because a lot of people, they'll download your book later, and we have another troll who is asking stupid questions. So we are going to put this user in a timeout, and I'm going to continue talking about Kindle Unlimited. And Kindle Unlimited, yes, your books are not available on other platforms like Smashwords and the iBookstore. So you can put your books on the iBookstore, and you can put your books, no, you can't put them on Kindle. When you're on Kindle Unlimited, you can't put your books on iBookstore. You can't put them on Smashwords. You can't put them on Barnes & Noble, or they'll kick you out of the KDP program. It's just one troll. There was another one. I got rid of them really quick. So it's a lot of, they're trying to start some sort of drama, but I'm not going to let them phase us, because my viewers ask me to do this live stream. They want to learn about independent publishing. They want to learn how to do independent publishing. And like I was talking about Kindle Unlimited and how it was a tool that I use to go out here and get readers. And we got I guess this person has multiple accounts, and they have no life, because this is the third person to come here with a troll, and this one's going to get racial. I wonder where these betas come from. I guess they have nothing to do at work or wherever they are at, but they don't. I'm not going to let them phase me here, because I'm not here for that type of drama. I mean, don't they have another live stream they could go to and waste people's time? But again, I was talking about Kindle Unlimited, and Kindle Unlimited, that is a great program. And if you can get people to not only download your work and read it, you will still get paid for the books that they read. So I had a couple of people, they didn't buy Esteem the Sands of Time, but every person who read through Esteem the Sands of Time, I still got paid for those books that they read, because under the Kindle edition normalized pages, you get paid for every book that is read in Kindle Unlimited, and that's because people are paying for the subscription. Now, Smashwords, on the other hand, you can put books up there for free, And the same thing with Nook, but you won't get paid for them. But the whole thing is you will build a tremendous intangible known as a reputation, because if your books are top quality, what's going to happen is people will read the free ones and then they will pay for other books. So I will give away a book like, again, A Misadventures of Captain Savaho or a legendary Mad Matilda. And what I would do is give that away for free. And if people like it, they will go out here and buy the other books. It's a gamble, but it's a gamble that will usually pay off for you as an author. So as an author, it works to your advantage to go out here and go out here you're gonna go out here and make your books sell. So what you want to do is that's what you're going to do. You're going to build your audience, and that's what's going to allow you to reach new readers. So you're going to sell books. You're going to give a book away for free, but that's going to lead to sales later on. So it looks like we got a big bad beta male troll problem. They're asking people asking silly questions, and I'm going to have to put these users in a timeout. And yeah. Okay, I'm going to add another moderator because this is ridiculous. I mean, I wish I could moderate myself. I mean, and this is one of the things YouTube needs to allow people to do is moderate their own platforms, because trolls, I already picked you, Code Ref. You're already in the moderation. But the whole thing is that they want to come here and cause a lot of drama, and they really don't want to learn anything. They're like the bad kids in the class. They just want to act a fool, and they just want to act a fool. They don't want to learn anything. And I'm trying to teach about, again, independent publishing, because this is a great tool you can use to make a side income for yourself. This is what I call one of the better side hustles. It's not one that's going to make you a lot of money in the beginning, but it's one that you can use to build towards making more money. So independent publishing is not something that you want to do as a full-time job. It's something you really want to do as a side job, because most writers, they have full-time jobs, and they usually do books on their evenings. They do books on the weekends. They do books whenever they have a vacation, and that's what they do on the side. And that allows you to build a nice little bit of money for retirement, or it allows you to build a nice little bit of money to buy some of those extras. Like if you want to buy a big screen TV, or you want to buy something like something for a vacation or something like that, you can use that as a passive revenue stream. And that's what writing books is. It's a passive revenue stream. And it's something you can do, on the evenings or on the weekends. You can promote. And I got rid of that guy. So I'm going to get rid of him, this other troll. So I got rid of that racist. I mean, these guys, they just come here. They're looking to argue. They're looking for drama. And you think they would find something else. Zodiac War says that they're looking to write fiction for supplemental income. And that's something that, yes, that's what writers do. And that's what I was planning to do back when I was writing when I was working at City College. I was planning on doing writing as a secondary income. And that's what every guy has to do, is they want to have a side hustle. So writing is a side hustle, just like eBay can be a side hustle for you, or there are other side hustles you can do, like YouTube is a side hustle. These are all side hustles. So these are side jobs that people do to make money, and these are side things that they do for a platform. So that's what people do. That's what I would say to, you can use for on a platform, is you use this for side money, but it's not going to be your primary source of income. Now, right now, if I had a full-time job, I would be, again, doing the full-time job and going out here and doing the books as well. But doing books is a business, and you have to have a very solid business mind whenever you're out here doing independent publishing, because again, this is the use of your time, and time is an intangible you can't get back. And the other intangible at this point that you can't get back is money. So those are the two intangibles you want to go out here and you want to think about before you invest in doing independent publishing. So independent publishing, it's something, again, that you have to think about from a business perspective. So whenever I go out here and I publish a book like a Spinsterella, I always have a business plan, and I always have a plan as related to my customers. So I always have a plan of what audience I want to reach with a book. And I do that before, again, I put fingers to the keyboard. And before I put fingers to the keyboard, I'm thinking about my core audience, my secondary audience, and I'm coming up with a plan before I even write the book. And that's also a part of it, is you have to have a business plan for every book you do. Like, for example, with Spinsterella back in 2015, I knew that there were African-American Goths out here, and I knew that I wanted to reach the African-American Goth subculture. So I laid out a plan to reach that customer base. And whenever I would go out here and do books like the Thetas, my core customer base was women, and my secondary base was Black women. So I had a customer base that I was going for before I put fingers to the keyboard. And then after I published the book, I started targeting those customers. Now, you can target customers online, and I usually target my customers one of three ways on social media. Usually I do a teaser ad these days on YouTube, and then I also post up teasers on my blog, and I post up sample chapters on my blogs to let people know that the book is coming, what they can expect from the book, and to go out here and what audience they can, what they can anticipate for the book. So people, now when I do the marketing, I do that. So the customer can know this book is coming, what's in this book, and why. And then I put up a pre-order link to let people know they can pre-order the book. So what blogging website do I use, Edward? I use Blogger, and my blog is available on here. So my blog is there, and you can on there. That's where I do a lot of my book promotion, and that's where I used to write a lot of my classic blogs. So you can check out my blog. I put a link to it in the chat. So that's my official blog, and what's up there right now is a promotion for my upcoming Indiegogo for the ISIS series graphic novel, and that's what's there because that's what I'm trying to promote right now. And usually when you have a blog, you really you can use it as a promotion tool, but you have to keep it updated. And one of the things that would really annoy people is when you don't update your blog. So it's a great tool for an indie publisher. And what you have to do is keep it updated. Now, when it comes down to a blog, you want to update it at least 3 times a week. I used to update mine Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays, or Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So those are the 3 things that you want to do. And you really want to do that as related to the books. So when you're doing a book, you really want to make sure you have your blog updated, and you really want to make sure that your audience knows that your blog is going to be updated on a regular. Now, my audience knows my blogs are updated on the regular because I do mine Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. And they know that because I post it on social media, usually on Twitter or Facebook. I'm usually letting people know that the blogs are coming. And some people, they know it already, so they're anticipating it. Now, sometimes when I'm really busy, what I'll do is I'll put a YouTube video up on the blog because I don't have time to write. And one time when I had a hand injury, I had to make videos instead. So you can put any type of content on your blog. You can put written blogs, or you can put video blogs, or your covers. What inspired my passion for writing fiction? Well, Zodiac Wars, I've been writing fiction ever since I was 9 years old. And that passion was inspired primarily because of my love for comic books. Now, when I was a kid, I wanted to write comic books. I wanted to draw comic books, and I couldn't draw very well. So I usually wound up writing because I thought if I made the words, I could create the pictures in my head. So that's what started my passion for writing fiction. Oh, Bomboy, did you see Captain Marvel? Because everybody keeps telling me it's bland and boring. What's going on, George? I'm glad to see you here. Well, let me see. Do you think your books in audiobook format could use using a voice changer for male and female voices? Red Star, I would love to do an audiobook, but I would need to hire actors and actresses to do that because with my revolving character narrative, it wouldn't be done justice unless I had actors and actresses to do the narration. Otherwise, it would be, that's expensive. So that's the only way I would do it. George, there were a lot of deleted messages because we had a lot of trolls coming in here and they were trying to ask really personal questions, or they were coming in here trying to be racist. So Code Ref had to come in and moderate. And I wish, again, YouTube would allow creators to moderate their own streams so that we wouldn't have to deal with this. No, he wasn't a betrayer. He just was saying something that wasn't related to the topic. So that's all we want to do is keep it on subject because of the trolls. Otherwise, it just gets out of hand because we had guys coming in here. I guess they're on their lunch break. I guess they're just can't get a date or something, or they come in here looking to argue. And that's not what this is about. This isn't some ghetto live stream. This is one where I'm teaching about the business of publishing. I'm teaching about, putting your own books together. And I want people to learn about the trade of putting books together, and learn so they can go out here and be able to put their own books together and learn some of the techniques I've learned from, putting books together for over about 15 years now. First, I started out again with print-on-demand companies, but over the last 10 years, I've been publishing my own books with Lightning Source, with CreateSpace, with Smashwords, with Nook Publishers, and the Smashwords affiliates like the iBookstore, and that's enabled me to build an international presence in publishing. So book topics that I have in mind, George, I have several that I'm going to do. I'm hoping to do maybe a Spinsterella trilogy live stream soon, and I definitely want to do more live streams as related to the comic book industry. And that's something that I want to do more of because I'm trying to rally sales for the ISIS Indiegogo. We had 3 donations yesterday when I opened the Indiegogo, and I'm trying to get a lot more pledges for the Indiegogo because this one is for $25,000, and I have a long, long way to go. So I definitely would like to see more pledges on the Indiegogo, because the publishing a comic book is something I want to do to take the SJS Direct imprint to the next level. And it's something that I want to do so that I can show that I can not only publish fiction and nonfiction, but I could also go out here and publish material like comic books. And I can do it in a way that allows people to see that it can be done. I'll take them into account if you write them down and they're book related, Luciano. That's all I want in here. Edward asks, are there grants I can apply for the Indiegogo? No, the only way you can get an Indiegogo to get funded is if people pledge. And the reason why they want to get people to pledge is because you want more people to buy the product, you want them to access the product, and you want them to find your product. And I've always wanted to do a comic book since I was 9 years old. And with the Indiegogo, I wanted to be able to finally get the opportunity to publish the comic book I always wanted to publish. What a lot of people don't know is that the ISIS series, this was originally planned to be a comic book. And I wanted to do comics for years, but I just don't have that money to do it. And the only way I can get the money is to crowdfund it. So without the help of the crowd, I can't get this book turned into the comic that I originally planned it to be. Now, again, I wanted to do comics since I was 9 years old. So every dollar that you guys spend on either the paperback version or the ebook version, that helps me get just that closer to the goal of getting this graphic novel to the marketplace. And with it, I want to be able to show people that I can write a quality comic and I can make a great story in a comic, and also give Bill Walko a great showplace for his great art, because people love his art and I want to be able to give him that type of showcase for his work. So he's been great to me putting these covers together, and I want this to work for him as well. If I could go out here and get a book published without an Indiegogo, I would do it. But right now, I just don't have access to the resources. But I'm using the tools that are in front of me, because I see guys like Ethan Van Sciver and Richard C. Meyer. They went out here and used those platforms of Indiegogo, and they raised $600,000 and $400,000 to get Jawbreakers and Cyberfrog published. So I really want to see if I can go out here and publish the first ISIS graphic novel, and then possibly use something like print on demand to do distribution and fulfillment, and use that as part of a new business model for comic books. Because as I see it, comic books, they can no longer sustain themselves in the direct market. So I want to use this as also a test for creating a brand new marketplace with print on demand, because I believe the future of comics, print comics, is going to be print on demand. Creators are going to create their comics, they're going to upload them to a print on demand platform, and then people are going to buy their hard copies with print on demand. They will be printed and then shipped to people, to their homes, and that's how people are going to collect comics. Luciano says he's going to purchase The Man Crisis, and I thank him if he does pick it up. That book is giving a lot of men guidance, and it's transforming their lives. And it's a book that's really changing people's lives. I'm going to be talking about that book on Judge Joe Brown, and that's what I'm going to be talking about on Friday at 4 o'clock on his podcast. We're going to be talking about The Man Crisis. Yeah, Edward, Ethan made over 600,000 just in sales, but that's because he's a known name in the comic book industry. We didn't ban Luciano, we just timed him out because it was just getting a little hot because of some racists. But Luciano is still here, so he's all right. But they just knew how to market and sell, and I want to try to use some techniques to try to market and sell in the hopes of getting an SJS Direct comic out there. So if they could use Indiegogo, I want to use Indiegogo. And that's, again, another way you can get your books published. Now, I use fraud platforms for crowdfunding like Kickstarter and Indiegogo and things like that. I use them to pay for things that will help my publishing, like paying for book covers. These book covers are primarily paid for these days by donations from people to the Patreon and donations to people via PayPal. So whenever you donate money to me, I use that to pay for artists like Bill Walko and Mike Williams and Drew Swift to go out here and design the book covers for books on the SJS Direct imprint. So every dollar is not just going to me for myself, it is going towards business. So thank you, Zodiac Wars. I'm trying to develop a strategy. I don't know how effective it is going to be yet, because I'm not where Richard C. Meyer or your Ethan Van Sciver is as related to comics. But for books, I'm trying to do the best that I can. I'm not where I want to be just yet. I wish I could get those Ethan Van Sciver or Richard C. Meyer numbers. And I would love to be able to get those numbers for the ISIS graphic novel Indiegogo and be able to have that many books sold. I don't really want to do anything political, George, because I don't really want to do anything that's related to people leaving the Democratic Party. That's a choice they have to make. That's not one I want to make for people or persuade them. I mean, David Carroll has made several videos, and you can see his reasons for them. So I'm not going to do that type of book. But I really want to, again, focus on self-publishing. And again, the Indiegogo is me trying to take my publishing to the next level. So that's one of the goals I have with it, because I've learned a lot about independent publishing over the last 10 years. I mean, in the last 10 years, where I have published over 60 paperbacks and 60 ebooks, I know how to lay out a book. I know how to lay out a book cover. I know how to market a book. And I know how to go out here and try to network with people like comic book artists and go out here and get your book a quality cover, a quality page layout, and be able to get that book to the marketplace within 90 days and start selling to customers. Now, again, sales is something that's not going to happen overnight. It's going to take time for you to do. I remember when I did ISIS Wrath of the Cyber Goddess, I thought that putting a new cover on would get a strong first impression on people. And I got a lot of resistance instead, but over time it started to pick up sales. So it may not start out strong, but what will happen is your book will start finding its audience and it will start finding readers. And that's going to take time to build. It may take a year, it may take 2 years, it may take 3 years. I remember on the book, Why 70% of Black Women Are Single, that book, it didn't do well in the beginning, but what happened was after I gave out over 1,000 copies on Smashwords for free, I had people then start going out to buy the book, and they were willing to pay $5.99 for the book because the word of mouth came out that the information in Why 70% of Black Women Are Single was so good, people started picking it up. And then after that, the book really started getting momentum, because I remember looking at it when I gave it out for free on Smashwords around Christmas time of 2014. I looked at it on New Year's Day, and it got almost 998 downloads on the free. So that's when people started to find it. Same thing with Spinsterella. People started finding it when I gave it away for free at Brief, but then after that, it started doing all right on its own. Red Star says he's not sold on Kindle. He has a brand new one. But yeah, the kids, it's a choice, and that's why I offer paperbacks and ebooks, because some people they want paperbacks in hand, whereas and that's why I offer both for certain titles. But when in the beginning with my nonfiction, I originally just offered ebooks because I thought that a lot of these Black women, they would get butthurt, and a lot of these women would get butthurt when I would do books like Stop Simping or Manginas or Misadventures of Captain Save-A-Ho or Why 70% of Black Women Are Single. So I didn't publish those as paperbacks because I didn't want dudes to get into trouble. So I felt if you had that on your phone, nobody would find it and it would just be your book. So that's why I wouldn't put a lot of nonfiction on there, but people started asking me for Stop Simping paperback, so I made that for them. They asked me for a Stop Simping in the Workplace paperback, so I made that for them. And that's what really started those books starting to sell on paperback platforms. And that's what gave me the confidence to go out here and then start doing paperback versions of The Man Crisis. I originally didn't have plans to do a Man Crisis paperback. It's over here. I originally didn't have plans. I was going to just do it as an ebook, but I decided instead to do a Man Crisis paperback. And that was all due to the strong sales of Stop Simping in the Workplace, and those two books doing well. But usually when I do nonfiction, I try to keep it kind of private because I know a lot of men, they don't want women finding certain books, especially books that are critical of women. And just like David Carroll talks about, like, you can't watch The Rabbit Hole. If you watch The Rabbit Hole and you've got that on, you're going to have an argument. So if you have Man Crisis, and it's a book here talking about feminists and stuff like that, they're not going to really want to see that on there. Oh, yeah, Bomb Boy's talking about Captain Marvel. I may just do a whole live stream on Captain Marvel. I might do that depending on how I'm feeling next week, or I might do a live stream on Friday about Captain Marvel. But that movie is absolutely horrible, and everybody's going to roast it up on Friday. It's going to be like Halle Berry's Catwoman, 2004. I don't know about my stream. Ethan's got a bigger stream than I have. I mean, the only one that was really big was the Man Crisis one and the Goth one. So I might start doing nighttime Friday night live streams. I may have to try to do one. I might try to do one this Friday. Depends on how I'm feeling after the Joe Brown interview. That's one of the reasons why I can't really do too many videos, is because I'm trying to get ready for this Joe Brown interview. And I might do one on Friday. Depends on how I'm feeling. Yeah, I've been promoting Man Crisis hard. I've been pushing it hard. I've been pushing Man Crisis. I did the Man Crisis live stream, and after I did that one, we got some sales with Sandman's review. We got some sales. We could never get this book to Oprah Edwards. She would never touch this because what's in here is too raw, and you cannot refute a single fact that's in here. When it comes down to Oprah, she's a part of the feminist publishing narrative, and she's about pushing feminist narratives. She's been doing that ever since she's been on the air. So Oprah's never going to touch this book. She would never touch Man Crisis. She would never touch any book from SJS Direct. She wouldn't even touch these ISIS books. She definitely would not touch the Thetas, because this book roasts and destroys feminists. And this piece of fiction right here, this book gets feminists really upset. Same thing with ISIS series books, because I do not promote feminism, and I do not promote the victimized narrative of feminism in ISIS series books. I talk about how women are strong, but they're not this super strong feminist victimized woman. And again, this is a book that it gets the feminists hot, because it denounces feminism. It's a sorority that does not support feminism, and it does not support the whole concept of feminism, and refutes many of the feminist narratives. So the books that I produce, they're never going to wind up on any Oprah Winfrey platform, any Tyler Perry platform, any mainstream, as I see it, media platform, because the type of stuff I do, it's about trying to promote positive images of womanhood and positive images of Black womanhood, and showing you an example of a Black woman as based on what I know from the Bible. So that's what I put in most of my books, a model of womanhood that I learned from the Bible. And that's what I believe a positive example of womanhood is what girls need, because all this feminism is just led to women being miserable. It's led to them being outside of God's natural order. And it's led to them being, as I see it, lost. And that's one of the reasons why I wrote the ebook, Why 70% of Black Women Are Single, because I want those women to go back off that spiritual road of being lost to finding a direction for themselves. Now you guys are giving me an idea for Why 70% of Black Women Are Single live stream, but I'm afraid if I put that one on here, that would be too raw for TV. That one, I don't know if I want to do that one. But I will do ones about publishing and writing, because that's how people can learn about publishing. So you can go to the kdp.amazon.com, and that'll take you to, and that's where you can learn about publishing from Kindle. And you can learn about Kindle, about publishing on Kindle there. Red Star asks, what's my writing schedule? Well, my writing schedule, usually I write on nights, and I usually write in the evenings. But these days, my schedule's in the mornings. I'm usually busy making YouTube videos. So I usually, and my Friday nights where I used to do a lot of writing, I'm doing live streams. So I usually do my writings in the evenings and on the weekends. And during the day, I usually wind up spending my time in the mornings. I used to make my YouTube videos back when I was living in my old place. Then I go to the library. And then after I go to the library, I would come back after I did my research at the library, and when I was looking for a job and doing research on different subjects, I would then go and do my writing later on in the evening. And usually on the evenings and the weekends, usually after about 3 to 6 months, I would have 2 or 3 books complete. Now, on my writing schedule right now, I have the 2020 book for John Haynes. John Haynes, The Man Who Has Nothing to Lose, finished. Now, right now, I have to get the ISIS book finished and the Easteen book finished for the 2020 catalog. And I want to do this novel I've been coming up with called Eternal Night, which takes us into the goth subculture of the SJS Direct universe, and it takes us into the vampire culture of the SJS Direct universe. I want to start doing Eternal Night, but I've just been so busy with the business side of publishing these days, promoting books and going out here and connecting with the customers with things like the YouTube videos and the live streams, that I need to find some time to get these other 3 books finished. Usually by the end of the year, I usually have extra books finished. I mean, sometimes I'll write 2 or 3 ISIS books and I'll have them ready. I remember I had several ISIS books, in the back burner, like this Easteen Goddess of. This one's supposed to come out in April. And this book I had on the back burner for about a year and a half. And I've had books, just sitting there because, again, I didn't have the money. So I would wind up delaying them for the covers. But for the first time, I'm having to get these books out, and I'm trying to get them back on schedule. Well, Bombor, I don't know about that. I might have to do a live stream on that about Black women being single, but they choose Asian men because they just want to try to jab Black men. But I'm going to get back on topic. And again, when it comes down to writing schedules, I usually, again, work in the evenings on my books or in my blogs. But these days, I've been kind of busy just trying to get myself back on track because I moved to a new place and I'm trying to put things together. Now, again, I finally finished John Haynes, The Man Who Has Nothing to Lose. And now I have to get to work on ISIS, which is going to be called The Main Event. And that one is going to have a little bit to do with women's wrestling. And then I want to do an Easteen book where she's taking on SJWs. And that was going to be the books for 2020. And I want to go out here and get those books ready. But that's usually what I do on the evenings and the weekends. I lay out my concepts. and my stories, and I start writing chapters. Usually I try to do a chapter a day, and usually by the end of the time I usually get a book finished. And usually because Isis and Esteem series books aren't that long. I mean, Esteem Goddess of is not that long, and Isis All That Glitters is not that long. So I can get those books out, and then I can go out here and start doing novels. And I want to get out here and do this Eternal Night novel next. And that one is one I've been planning for a while. Oh, thank you, George Rogers. He says I'm a role model to society. I wish I could be one. What's up, Benny? You just came in at 2 o'clock on the stream. I'm gonna leave about 2:15 because I gotta go get my dinner. So, well, Edward, it's actually the women's wrestling angle is based on a previous Isis series story arc that started in Ultimate Fight. This is where Isis took on the Greek goddess Nemesis, and that was what started the Nemesis storyline. It started in Ultimate Fight. I definitely have to do a new cover for this one. And I followed that up with Power of the Princess, which features one of the worst covers. I have to fix this one. And the third book in the whole series would be the main event. So Ultimate Fight, Power of the Princess, and main event would be the Nemesis arc. And that one is one I want to finish up because this was a storyline I started. It was originally supposed to be a Wonder Woman story. It was supposed to be where Wonder Woman was supposed to enter the arena of Ultimate Fighters. And as I always thought about Wonder Woman, I said, why is she not taking on a UFC style villain? And that's something that I always wanted to do, was see a Ultimate Fight with Wonder Woman, because she's supposed to be this Amazon and great fighter, but they never put that story in the comics. And I always said to myself, DC is missing out because UFC is $1 billion business. And here you have Wonder Woman, who's one of the strongest Amazons. We never saw her in a fight, but with Isis, who's a skilled martial artist, I decided to do that story myself. So that's a story I'm working on. Red Star says his only fear of hollering at Black Goths is that of them being coons. Now, I have not seen that from any of the Black Goth women I have talked to online. Most of the Black Goths women are mellow. They are friendly. Although it looks like, let me see if my connection is doing here. I don't know if it's still buffering, but mine looks like it's okay. I don't know. All right, but what was I talking? Most goth women I've seen are cool. Most goth women are chill. I've talked to Black goth women, white goth women online, and they have been downright friendly to me. I mean, I've talked to them on different social media. They're not difficult. They're not anything like that at all. I mean, if you talk to them, they're genuinely nice women. They're nice, friendly women, and you're not going to have a problem with them. I don't. These days, I've got the Marilyn Munster effect. So when I see women in the subculture, I just see them just like any other woman. And if I see one that is nice, I would approach them. So if you want to go out there and approach a Black goth girl, go ahead and approach her. But see her like any other woman. That's the way I see it. As so, you want to talk to them? Go ahead and talk to them. Yeah, but that's what I was going to do but I was going to get back to the topic of what I was doing with the next Isis book, which is going to be the main event, which is going to be related to women's wrestling. And that's one I want to make another fun one, but I'm also going to get into Isis's philosophies as related to her being a goddess, because that all is going to tie into the next book, which is going to be a Revenge of the Cyber Goddess, which was a story I had on my computer, but then my computer crashed. This was the MacBook Pro I had been using for years, but then it just it wound up where it crashed, and then I had to wind up putting all the software back on it. And this is the one that I used to make all the videos before Obsidian did the Sean James initiative. And this was the computer I used, and I still use this to do Photoshop and things like that. But this is the computer. I had Revenge of the Cyber Goddess on here. It was going to be the follow-up to Wrath of the Cyber Goddess, but I'm going to try to build back up into Revenge of the Cyber Goddess, because in that story I have to deal with some loose ends from Samurai Goddess and Esteem Ascension, where both of these stories, I was starting a long story arc, an overreaching arc, and it was supposed to be an overreaching arc I meant to finish, but I wasn't able to finish because I lost I lost the file for Revenge of the Cyber Goddess. So I'm hoping to get back on track. I want to do Isis main event, and I want to do Isis Revenge of the Cyber Goddess, because those are two stories that lead up into, you know, a major climax of the second story arc of the Isis series. Now, most people, they don't know that I usually do different story arcs for Isis and Esteem series books. But each book, each 5 or 6 books is a story arc. And the story arc for the second one for Isis, which started with Wrath of the Cyber Goddess, that one is getting ready to wrap up. So everybody who jumped on for the second story arc, you need to know, you're going to know that we are 2 more books into the end of the second story arc, and then we're going to start the third story arc. Yeah, that's a Wolverine in the background. That's on this side. Yeah, that's the New Legends Wolverine. Family member gave me that as a gift for Christmas, because it's hard for me to buy clothes because of the sizing. But that's what I'm getting ready to plan to do for the next 2 Isis books. And with Esteem, she is starting her second story arc, and her second story arc starts in Esteem Goddess of. Now, Esteem Goddess of is where it takes place right after Esteem Ascension. This is where Esteem gets brand new powers. And in this story, we get a showcase of Esteem's brand new powers. So you definitely want to pick up Esteem Ascension, and you definitely want to pick up Esteem Goddess of, which is coming out this April. So this is going to be coming out this April, and this starts the second Esteem story arc. This story ends the first story arc, and I have to do a essential Esteem, because of the original 3 or 4 Esteem stories before Undercover, they were all just only ebooks. So I have to do a paperback version for the people who did not get a chance to get the early Esteem books on Smashwords. So what I want to do is do an essential Esteem book, and you can probably pick that up soon. I have to do a lot of grammar and spelling corrections. Isis and Esteem met early on in the SJS Direct universe in Trial of the Goddess and in the first Isis Red Star, and they make their meeting in the modern SJS Direct universe in Amari's Revenge. So if you want to see Isis and Esteem's first meeting after Temptation of John Haynes, you can pick up Isis Amari's Revenge, and that'll get you up to speed on Isis and Esteem's relationship, where Isis finds out that Esteem is her sister, and she starts to find out that things about her family, and we start to see the reconciliation of the Osirian family in Amari's Revenge. So you really want to pick that one up. This is the first book in the Isis series, the modern Isis series, and it's the book that takes place right after Temptation of John Haynes. It lets you know what Isis was doing, and it gets you on point for the whole thing. Do I think Dr. Manhattan is nasty? Well, after Doomsday Clock number 9, I'm going to have to say so. Well, not much we can do about the Democrats, bomb war, except watch them self-destruct, because they're going to be the next. They're not going to beat Trump, I believe, in 2020. I believe they're not strong enough. So they're just censoring people because they know they can't win. But I'm going to be getting ready to end the stream in about 4 or 5 minutes. So if you have any more questions about publishing, I'll be glad to answer them in the rest of the stream. You just let me know what you want to ask me. All right. I'm going to leave a link, if I can, if YouTube will let me, to Amari's Revenge. And if you want to try Amari's Revenge, you can try that one. That is the book where ISIS and E-Steam meet for the first time in over 100 years. And it lays the start of the major foundation for the SJS Direct universe. And also going to leave a link to some of the other books, like if you want to try out E-Steam Got Us Up Early, you can try out E-Steam Got Us Up. It's in paperback right now. You can pick that. Oh, they can't. We can put Benny G's message up. I mean, it's all right. But everybody wants to talk about this Democrat stuff. I'll just do a Democrat live stream. You can retype it, Luciano. I'm getting ready to go in a couple minutes because I have other stuff to do. So, but I might have to do a live stream on the Democrats, or I might have. You can't do that on YouTube because YouTube is a far left platform. But I may do one about the Black women are single soon, and you put Benny G back on Cold Ref. He's cool. Thank you, Red Star 7311. All right. But Edward, yeah, I got a PayPal in the low bar. I always put PayPal in my comments section, not my comment section, in my description box. And you can get to my PayPal. You can just send it through. You can send a PayPal through there if you want to send a PayPal donation. So that's no problem. I do take PayPal donations. I do take Patreon donations. And I do that all the time. So if you want to donate through it that way, you can donate that way, or you can buy a book. And each way helps me out because that helps me get more book sales, and it helps me be able to pay for things like the internet and things like that. So every book that you buy helps me. Every donation you give me helps me. And I'm hoping that everybody helps out with the Indiegogo because that's something I want to share with everybody. I want to be able to publish the first SJS Direct comic book, but I can't do that without your help. I mean, I believe if Diversity in Comics and Ethan Van Sciver can do a comic, I can do a comic, and I believe I could publish a great comic as well, because with the over decade of experience I have in publishing books from 2009 when I started doing books like All About Maryland. This was a screenplay book I did all the way back in 2009. all the way to today, where I'm publishing, where I've evolved from doing books with hand-drawn covers all the way to doing books like Esteemed Goddess Of, which feature professional art by Bill Walko and a professional page layout. You see a clear evolution of my process. You see a clear evolution of my skill set as a publisher, and you see what you can do with independent publishing platforms if you are creative, if you have an imagination, and if you have the courage to go out here. You can go from publishing something like this All About Maryland, which has a hand-drawn cover and really amateur-looking cover design, to designing something like this Esteemed Goddess Of, or Legendary Mad Matilda, which looks like something that comes straight off a bookstore shelf at Barnes & Noble. So this is what you can do as an independent self-publisher once you get your skill set straight, and once you work past the learning curve, because there is a bit of a learning curve for independent publishing. You can go from producing books like this in the beginning all the way, again, to producing books like these. And this, again, shows how much I have evolved as a publisher, because, again, being able to publish books like this shows how easy it is to, make books that are professional looking with print-on-demand technology, because all these books were done on print-on-demand platforms like CreateSpace. And if I could do this with just a handful of computer software that are fairly cheap, you can do that as well. And it's not that hard. Thank you, Red Pill Benny. But all these are just a fraction of all the books I have published over the last 10 years. These are just Isis and Esteem series books, and there are so many of them. I have them all in a box, and this is, again, if I took them all out, you could see this is just this many. I'll have to ask Code Ref to unblock you, so because Benny's a cool guy. He's been with my streams for a while. I'm gonna see if I can get. I think his is Benny G. Benny G is his main channel, so but he's cool. He's all right. You can make this. I mean, this is a lot of books, and I have done all these books over the last 10 years. So all these books, that's just some of them, and here are some, and got some more on the floor. So I've done all these books using print-on-demand platforms. I mean, there are a lot of them are out of order, upside down, some of them, but I've done all these books on print-on-demand platforms, and this, again, is what over 60 books looks like. And this is what you can do if you decide to get creative on a print-on-demand platform. You can do all that with just a little bit of money, a little bit of resources. I'm still going to keep publishing paper books because my readers ask for them. And again, I publish those books because there is an audience for them. And that's what any writer is going to do, is they're going to go out here and they're going to publish, because I don't think you'll be banned forever. If I can find a way to get you back in. Yeah, I've been really busy. Dibshide 1965. I mean, when you have nothing but when you're out of work, you have a lot of time on your hands, and I would rather just take that time to do something positive, like publish books. So I've always liked writing, so I take my time and I use it to do constructive things. And this is what you can do for yourself when you are positive. You can just take the resources you have and turn them into something. You can take raw tools and turn them into something. And again, that's something you can do with a platform like independent publishing. A lot of people will say, oh, independent publishing, the books aren't that great. But again, it's what the person puts into the book that makes them great. Thank you, Black Sand. I really appreciate the donation. Are you guys the Black Sand publishers? But you can do that with the tools that are in front of you. And that's what I do out here is I take the tools that are in front of me, the print on demand platform, and I use them to go out here and publish books like E-Steam, The Sands of Time, and many others. And I use these tools and resources in front of me because when you have raw tools and raw material, you can take that tools and make tangible products. That's what you want to do with the independent publishing platforms. And I've been here since the early days when you had trade publishers and trade publishing authors roasting people and attacking people and saying the books aren't that good. And I just wanted to blow those people off and not listen to them because I know what makes a good book. And what makes a good book is a great author having the passion to continue to go out here and have the confidence to put their work out here, the confidence to take the slings and arrows, and the confidence to continue persevering to the point where they go again from publishing stuff that was hand-drawn and books that had covers that got attacked because they used to attack this cover on the lousy booklet covers list. I remember when I got attacked for this one and Isis the Beauty Myth, to continuing to persevere in the face of all those attacks to the point where now I've got books with professional artists doing the covers and the books looking as good on the outside as they are on the inside and having the high quality of a book that could be considered no different than that of one produced by a trade publisher. I'm going to get ready to wrap up this stream. And if you want to try some of my SJS Direct publications, you may do so by clicking the link to Amazon.com that I'm going to put in the description box in a minute. And if you want to try them, you can go ahead over to Amazon.com to try them again. Thank you, Jibside1965, for the donation. I really appreciate it. And if you also want to really help me out, you can donate to the ISIS graphic novel Indiegogo. I'm going to leave a link to that in the chat again. And all right, George Rogers, what's your question? Then I'm going to have to go because I have to go get my dinner. But that's going to help me take things to the next level. And if you think the quality of an SJS Direct book is good, I'm going to try to make the SJS Direct ISIS graphic novel even better than the book. So I really hope you'll be here for the next live stream. I'm going to try. I might do one on Friday, but there will be one next week. And that one, I may talk about either this Captain Marvel movie or I may talk about another publishing related topic. I'm going to get ready to end the stream in a minute, and I'm hoping you guys George Rogers is constantly trying to pray you into trying to empower Black men in the U.S. It's not an easy thing to do, but you have to go out here and do it. So that's not much I can say about that empowering Black men in the U.S., but it's not an easy thing to do, but it is something we need to prioritize. So that's what I'm going. That's how I can answer the question. I don't know how you can. That's not much you can do except, you know, it's a priority that every man has to do. But it's not an easy task because a lot of these black men, they don't really want to listen, but you can do the best you can. I'm going to get ready to wrap it up. I might do a Friday night live stream, Rob IS. It just depends on how I feel after the Joe Brown one. I'll let everybody know. After the Joe Brown interview that's coming up this Friday on the podcast, if I am available for a live stream. But if I do a live stream on Friday, it probably might be Captain Marvel related, or it might be Goff related. I mean, I want to do another Goff live stream. That's something I really want to do. But I might just do a Captain Marvel live stream depending on the reviews. The Joe Brown interview is supposed to be Friday at 4 o'clock. And that's when we're going to have the Joe Brown podcast. And I'm going to get ready to wrap up this live stream. Again, I'm hoping everybody tells more people about the Indiegogo because I really want to get this ISIS graphic novel out here. I believe it can get funded if everybody comes in. And I hope everybody comes out and picks up some of the books that are a part of the SJS Direct imprint. They're great stories, and I think you'll enjoy them. Thank you for coming to the stream, and I'm hoping you come back for the next live stream that's either going to be this Friday or possibly next Wednesday.